This is the Talking Sports Podcast, episode number 3. I'm your host, Peter DiBiasi, alongside Eddie Amadeo. Before we get into our topic for today's episode, we have a very special announcement. So we have our first interview ever done on either the radio show or now the podcast. We're going to have the number 9th overall pick in the 2019 NHL Draft, Trevor Zegras. He was drafted by the Anaheim Ducks. He's from Westchester, New York. He played his freshman year at BU, and recently, last week, he was signed to a 3-year entry-level contract. So he stayed 1 year at BU, and now is officially going to be an Anaheim Duck. So that video, we're really excited for that video. We're really hoping you guys will like that video. Me and Eddie will put a lot of time into that video, and stay tuned for that video. That video will be out in the next couple of weeks. So that's the biggest thing we've ever done on either this brand new channel or a radio show. So me and Eddie are super, super excited for that. But stay tuned for that in the next couple of weeks. So Ed, kick us off with what we're doing today.
Okay, so today, Peter and I are making our NFL power rankings for post-free agency. We had made a list like this at the end of the NFL season on our radio show. And now after free agency, a lot of moves, a lot of trades have been made. So it's good to just refresh and see what's going on in the NFL and give our power rankings or predictions for this year in the NFL. Peter, do you want to kick us off by going start at number 32?
Yes, so at number 32, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Couple just quick reasons what they did in the offseason. They added D-tackle DJ Reader, cornerback Trey Waynes, and they kept AJ Green. The biggest thing we're looking for is when is the draft and what they're going to do with the number 1 overall pick, and I'm thinking Joe Burrow. So there's still a lot of holes in that team, so that's why I have them at number 32.
Okay, so number 32, I have a different team. I have the Washington Redskins. Granted, them and the Bengals were probably the 2 worst teams in the NFL, so they are kind of interchangeable. But in my opinion, as I mentioned in our last video, how I had them at our losses of free agency, I did not like the Kyle Allen decision. That was probably their biggest decision on team during free agency. So I don't see a bright light at the end of the tunnel for the Redskins this season in the NFL. Peter?
At number 31, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They traded away Nick Foles, got rid of that contract. They also traded away A.J. Boye and Calais Campbell. They're clearly in a rebuilding stage. So what they do with the number 9th overall pick, do they draft another quarterback or do they ride with the Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback? We'll wait and see. But trading away Nick Foles, A.J. Boye, and Calais Campbell basically means they're in a rebuilding stage. So that's why I have them number 31.
So number 31, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. They did not do too many moves in free agency. Probably their biggest one was putting the franchise tag on AJ Green, which was crucial for their team, especially since the NFL draft's coming up. And a lot of people are hoping that they draft a quarterback, which most likely they will, in my opinion. That's why I have the Bengals at 31.
Perfect. Number 30, I have who you had at number 32, which was the Washington Redskins. They added Kyle Allen. We can debate if you like that trade or not, but that's what they did. They added Kyle Allen. They also added cornerback Kendall Fuller, and they missed out on Amari Cooper. This team still has a big question mark at quarterback, either with Kyle Allen, Dwayne Haskins. A lot of holes throughout their roster, missing out on a number 1 receiver. That's why I have them at number 30.
Okay, so my number 30, I actually have the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to have to see what happens with Gardner Minshew. There's a good chance that they do have him as their starting quarterback for this year, unless, of course, they draft somebody. I think they would compete. But, with the lack of a lot of good signings and free agency so far, it's just kind of a rebuild year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll have to wait and see what they do.
At number 29, I have the Detroit Lions. They added Jamie Collins and DeJuan Harmon, both from the New England Patriots. And they did trade away Darius Slay. They still have a stable quarterback, Matthew Stafford. The biggest if for that team is if Matthew Stafford can stay healthy, and trading away your number 1 corner doesn't always help. So that's why I have him at number 29.
Okay, so I actually have the Lions at number 29 also for the same reasons that you said. A lot of the major additions on their defense. They got Danny Shelton, Jamie Collins from the New England Patriots. Of course, we have the whole Matthew Stafford thing. I personally thought that it was time to move on from him. So far, that does not look the case, but we'll have to see what happens during the NFL draft.
Number 28, I have the New York Football Giants. They added cornerback James Bradbury, linebacker Blake Martinez, and also kept Leonard Williams. So sneakily, they had a pretty good off season. Wait and see what they do in the draft. But it all depends on Daniel Jones. If Daniel Jones can take the next step as an NFL quarterback, this team will be probably more in the 20s when it comes season round. Their defense isn't still great, but adding a nice corner, James Bradbury, puts them in the right direction. They're moving forward on the rebuild, just not there yet.
Yeah, so 28 actually have the New York Football Giants as well, as Peter would put it. Of course, for the addition of James Bradbury and, of course, Blake Martinez. Now, I'm a big Daniel Jones fan. I have high hopes for him this year. Yeah, I do like his style of play, similar to Josh Allen, as Peter can probably back up what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the Giants at 28, and I'm hoping that they can rebound from a rough couple seasons.
Yeah, quick note on Daniel Jones. I was kind of surprised. He played pretty well in this first NFL season. I didn't expect that. So high hopes for the young quarterback.
Yep.
Number 27, I also have another New York football team. This is the New York Jets. They added center Connor McGovern, Rashad Perryman as a receiver. Not really great moves. Connor McGovern could be a good starting center. They also lost Robbie Anderson. So this team is going to have to bank on the draft. They have a lot of holes to fill in the draft. So adding a lot of young players will help in the future, but not right now. So that's why I have them at 27.
So 27 actually have the Carolina Panthers. I do think that with the addition of Teddy Bridgewater, that's going to help their team. Of course, you got the struggling Cam Newton. They're kind of moving on from him. And then the Kyle Allen. I thought Kyle Allen, could they have kept him? Yeah. Did he work last year? Excuse me. Kind of. And he had a couple bright games, but some of those other games, he had a rough time. But we're going to have to see what happens. The Panthers are hopeful with Teddy Bridgewater. But other than that, we're going to have to just wait and see when it comes to the Carolina Panthers.
Number 26, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. They added linebacker Corey Littleton, corner Eli Apple, and they added backup quarterback Marcus Mariota. Some good small signings. I really like Corey Littleton. Biggest thing is what they do in the draft, and do they draft another quarterback to compete with Derek Carr as their future, or do they ride with Derek Carr? Team in the right direction, but I still have them at 26 as now they're officially the Las Vegas Raiders.
I personally think you have them a little low, but we'll get to them later when I show my spot that I have the Raiders at. But for 26, I actually have in the AFC East the Miami Dolphins, with the addition of Kyle Van Noy coming from the Patriots, of course. Shaq Loxton, I think it was. And then, of course, Eric Flowers as well. Was a good addition for the Miami Dolphins. Coming off a rough season, they did have a strong finish with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's time for the Dolphins to start rebuilding.
Perfect. Right behind you, I got number 25. I got the Miami Dolphins. Just to repeat, we said added Kyle Van Noy, added corner Byron Jones, added defensive end Shaq Lawson. The biggest thing here is what they do at the number 5 overall pick. Do they take Tua Tagovailoa? Do they move up to take him? Or do they take Justin Herbert at number 5? But the Dolphins have leapfrogged the Jets with their offseason, and they're moving in the right direction. They're not a playoff team yet, but they're moving faster than most people thought.
Okay, so at number 25, I actually have the Denver Broncos. Did they make a lot of huge moves? No, but they did spend a decent amount of money to upgrade both their defensive line and their offensive line. So we're just a wait-and-see game for the Broncos, and it's time for them to capitalize in the draft as well.
Number 24, I got the Los Angeles Chargers. They added Trey Turner, Chris Harris Jr., kept Hunter Henry, and then they also missed out on Tom Brady. Biggest thing here is the question mark at quarterback. So this is why this is a post-free agency NFL power rankings, and that's why we also have a post-NFL draft power rankings, because a lot can change. If the Chargers take their future quarterback, then I could have them moving up. But right now, with the hole at quarterback, I have them at 24. Still a talented roster, missing a quarterback, so that could change with what they do in the draft.
Okay, so I actually have the Chargers a little bit higher on the list. Peter and I, in the past, we've shared disagreements when it comes to the Chargers. I think it's rebuilding. Peter thought they should have went with Brady and lived in the present, but we've already had that conversation, so I don't want to get back into it. But at number 24, I actually have the Chicago Bears. I think it was, would they be higher on the list for most people? Yeah, I think they would. But honestly, I think it was a big mistake, like I said in our past video, adding Nick Foles and trying to force out Mitch Trubisky, already a former second overall pick in the draft. I think they should have given Mitch Trubisky another year to prove himself without making him feel shaky by signing a mediocre quarterback in Nick Foles.
Number 23, I have the Denver Broncos. I believe you had a number 25. They added corner A.J. Boyer, defensive tackle Joel Casey, Melvin Gordon, plus franchise tag their starting safety Justin Simmons. Big year for Drew Lock. He had a good finish to last year. The team has a good defense. They added a good running back. They're moving in the right direction. I don't know if they can compete with the Chiefs yet, but if Drew Lock takes the next step, then they're moving in the right direction. And you can see a lot by these teams. It's a lot about the quarterback, most important position on the field. But Denver Broncos are moving in the right direction, so that's why I've been number 23.
I do agree there. There are a lot of movements in the quarterback position in the NFL and free agency, and there are going to be in the draft this month. So that's one thing that kind of makes this a lot more exciting. But to get back to the list, at number 23, I actually have the Cleveland Browns. They added Austin Hooper at tight end. He's going to hopefully help Baker Mayfield. And then, of course, you got Case Keenum, quarterback, who they probably added to, I don't want to say push out Baker Mayfield, but to kind of give him a little bit of pressure to step up to the plate a little bit.
I have the Cleveland Browns just one ahead. At number 22, they added Austin Hooper. You said Case Keenum. They also added offensive tackle Jack Conklin. Kind of repeating what I said. Quarterback position, Baker Mayfield has the talent around him. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. That's a talented offense. Doesn't always lead to success, but if Baker Mayfield can put everything together, this could be a special team, like we said last year, but everything's riding around Baker Mayfield, so that's why I have him 22. Still a question mark at quarterback.
It's always a question mark with the Browns, especially how they have a struggling coaching staff, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They got plenty of skill players. They got a team that can be, a winning team, but they struggle year after year. But to move on, at number 22, I have the LA Chargers. As of course I said, Peter and I disagree with this. I think it's a new era for the Chargers. They're moving on from Phillip Rivers. They're going to want to start young. They don't want Tom Brady for that reason. So they got Try Turner, they got Chris Harris. They're making a couple small additions there. And I think also we're going to have to see what they do in the draft as well. I think it's a rebuilding for the LA Chargers, and the rebuilding process started with moving to LA in the first place. So I think we're going to have to see if they're a sleeper team or to see if they struggle again this season.
Perfect. Number 21, I have the Carolina Panthers. I'm much higher on the Panthers than you are. They added Teddy Bridgewater and they cut Cam Newton. I'm a huge Teddy Bridgewater guy. I think this team will take the next step with Teddy Bridgewater. Having Christian McCaffrey, having DJ Moore, pretty good defense. Bringing in a new coach, so we'll see how that pans out. But Carolina Panthers not a playoff team yet, but I think they're moving in the right direction. I have them a little higher than you did, so I have them at 21.
Okay, so at number 21, I actually have the Arizona Cardinals. Trading for DeAndre Hopkins was a big move, especially when you have a young quarterback like Kyle Murray that can only help him. And this is going to be Kyle Murray's year to prove himself. So hopefully he can, prove himself in a way that, can show that he can lead a football team as well. I think that's important to have a quarterback who's a leader, and I think Kyle Murray has what it takes. And with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, that's definitely going to help him. So, Peter?
I have the Arizona Cardinals one up. I have them at number 20. Like you said, added superstar receiver DeAndre Hopkins. They also added Jordan Phillips. I would have them higher, but that division's really tough with the Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, and the San Francisco 49ers. So they're a really talented team, the Arizona Cardinals, and they're number 20, and they're the fourth place team in the division, but they're on the come up. But that's going to be an exciting division to watch this year.
Absolutely, Peter. So at number 20, I actually have sorry, I'm getting mixed up here. I was going to say the Oakland Raiders, but the Las Vegas Raiders I have at number 20. Of course, with the addition of Marcus Mariota and moving on from Derek Carr, we're going to have to see what Gruden has in his back pocket for the draft. But I do think it was a good free agency for the Raiders, and they're looking forward to the season, especially now being in Vegas.
I disagree, but that's the point of the show. At number 19, I have the Chicago Bears. They added Nick Foles and they added Jimmy Graham. You can say what you want on the Nick Foles, but their defense is still really good with a good receiving core and a good running game. That's going to carry them to about 7 or 8 wins. That's why they're kind of the 19th spot. If somehow Mitchell Trubisky plays great or Nick Foles creates some magic, then they'll be better. But they're still at the 7 to 9 wins just because their quarterback is such a question mark. But their defense is championship caliber. So that's why I have them at 19.
That sounds pretty good. But at 19, I have the New York Jets. With the addition of George Vaughn, Connor McGovern. Wasn't the hugest free agency for the Jets. I know you think that they, did pretty well, but I just think the Jets are going to be the Jets this year. I mean, I'm not making necessarily predictions yet, but I think they really need to, make some big moves in the draft in order to really start from scratch, I say, which kind of stinks because I think that the Jets have been starting from scratch ever since they moved on from Mark Sanchez, and it really hasn't worked out for them, whether it comes to coaches, quarterbacks, Geno Smith, and now they got Sam Darnold. We got to see how he does. But hopefully if the Jets can put it together this season. Well, not hopefully because I'm a Pats fan, but for them, hopefully if they can put it together this season, to say the least. So, Peter, who do you have at 18?
18 have the Atlanta Falcons. They added Todd Gurley, Hayden Hurst, Dante Fowler Jr. They lost Devontae Freeman and Vic Beasley. This team is a talented team. No doubt we'll see how Matt Ryan plays this year. Biggest question mark is that coaching staff. I am not a Dan Quinn believer. I thought they should have moved on for him in the middle half of last year. They still have him as their coach. They're a talented team. That's why I have them at 18. They play up to their talent. They could be a playoff team, but right now they're on the outside looking in. But 18.
Nice. Okay, so 18, I have the Dallas Cowboys. I'm moving down on the list a little bit from last year. They did add, it was Amari Cooper, so that'll be a good addition for Dak Prescott. But I don't think there's going to be too many changes with the Cowboys. They have their quarterback. They have their running back. People are saying that this whole, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper is going to be some big trio in the NFL this year. I don't really see that happening. I don't really think that Dak Prescott is going to end up connecting too well with Amari Cooper. I think that, the lack of depth in their receiving position outside of Amari Cooper is going to force him to, get double covered in many different situations. It could be tough for a quarterback like Dak Prescott to get to him. So we're going to have to – that's more analytical, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. So I have the Cowboys at 18. Peter, 17?
Houston Texans. They lost DeAndre Hopkins. They lost DJ Reader, and they added Randall Cobb. The biggest reason I have him at 17 is Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is a tremendous NFL quarterback. He will win them games that they're not supposed to win. He'll win games that are close. So he'll give them a couple boosts, but they're still on the outside looking in of the playoffs right now with losing DeAndre Hopkins. But they're still a good team. They're just not there yet with DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see what they do in the draft, but right now I have them at 17.
Yeah, I definitely like the sound of that, Peter. But for me at 17, I actually have the LA Rams. They lost Todd Gurley, their star running back, and it's not really looking too good so far with signings to help help Jared Goff in that offense. I mean, they do have a good receiving squad with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, but this is going to be a big year for Jared Goff to prove that he can continue to be the franchise quarterback for the LA Rams. I do like him a lot as a quarterback. I think he does have the potential to do so, but if he doesn't have the year that everybody is hoping, the Rams definitely will be thinking about moving on within the next 1, 2, or even 3 years.
I totally agree with you. I just have him one up at 16. They lost Dante Fowler Jr., cut Todd Gurley, and lost Corey Littleton. They added Leonard Floyd and re-signed defense end Michael Brockers. This team is still talented, especially on the defense and the outside. Jared Goff, the biggest question mark. If he plays like he did 2 years ago when they made their Super Bowl run, their run to the Super Bowl, then this team could be a playoff team, but with a tough division. They're looking at it as like a wild card team, maybe outside looking in, especially with a new added playoffs team. This could help them, actually. So yes. They're good. The division's tough, especially when the Cardinals got better. And you still have the Seahawks and 49ers. So I'm at 16.
That sounds pretty good. But at 16, I have the Atlanta Falcons at this point in time. Atlanta Falcons were definitely a weird team last season. Overall, they had a pretty rough season, but they did beat a lot of good teams. They beat the Saints, they beat the Panthers a couple. They trounced the Panthers a couple times, and they did beat the Saints as well, as I said. But we're gonna have to see what happens. They got Todd Gurley. That's a good addition, and I believe they got Dante Fowler as well. Now, one of the big things about this season for the Falcons, in my opinion, is this is really where Matt Ryan's going to need to prove if he can continue to be the leader on this Falcons offense. So it really all depends this year on Matt Ryan, I think.
Perfect. Number 15, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Basically, they kept Bud Dupree, added tight end Eric Ebron. Biggest thing here, if Big Ben bounces back with his health, then this team's a playoff team. If he doesn't, then they're not a playoff team. Pretty self-explanatory, so I have them at 15.
15, I have the Houston Texans. Many people, I agree exactly with what Peter said. It's going to be a rough year for the Houston Texans, at least through my prediction, with Bill O'Brien having problems with DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, them trading him away as a result. It's really abysmal of a team right now. Deshaun Watson, I like to root for him. He's definitely the style of quarterback that I like, kind of similar to Tom Brady in different respects. But, so I am rooting for Deshaun Watson to see what he can do with this struggling team this season. If they still, prove to be a good team, that really shows that Deshaun Watson is definitely competing there against Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. So we'll have to see what Deshaun Watson can do with this team and what Bill O'Brien and his stubbornness can prove this season.
Perfect. At number 14, I have the New England Patriots. We know what they did. They lost Tom Brady, Jamie Collins, Calvin Noy, Philip Dorsett, traded away DeJuan Harmon, added Adrian Phillips. Just a couple of the notable things they did. Biggest reason here, question mark at quarterback. Me and Eddie keep repeating the same thing. Everybody knows quarterback is the most important position in football. The reason that I have him at 14 is just what I just said, a question mark at quarterback. Jared Stidham and Brian Hoyer, they're going to draft a guy. It's an unknown for the first time in a long time, so we'll wait and see. But what will keep them relevant is having Bill Belichick and still a good defense, even though they lost a couple key players. They still have a good defense, which keep them in a lot of games. But right now, 14 actually gets you in a playoff spot technically. But do I see them having a success with Tom Brady? No, but Jared Stidham plays better than he did last year, or he didn't really play that much, but takes the next step, you know what I mean? Then they could be better. But I see him at 7, 9, 8, and 8, just 9, 7, just because of that question mark. But I have him at number 14.
Okay, so at number 14, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see, they added Eric Ebron. They added, was it Chris Swamley, I think it was. So, like, the Steelers, I mean, they got Big Ben still. They're still riding him out. It's just kind of a wait-and-see thing. It's not – they didn't have a fantastic free agency. They didn't have a bad free agency. They're just I want to say pretty stagnant with where they were last year. A lot of people think they're poised for a better year, but we're just going to have to wait and see with the Steelers. I don't have much else to say about them, to be honest.
Number 13, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Traded for DeForest Buckner, did lose a first-round pick. Added Philip Rivers and added Xavier Rhodes. I think Philip Rivers will be a stable quarterback at this position, which they haven't had, which they didn't have last year with Jacoby Brissett. This team is a really, really talented team, defensive-wise, offensive-wise. So I see them at the Colts nailing a wild card spot as of right now, just ahead of the New England Patriots, just because they have more of a stable quarterback position as of right now. But both teams are really similar how they're built. So I have the Colts at number 13.
Okay, so number 13, I had yours truly, the New England Patriots. They did have a rough free agency, of course, not being able to sign Tom Brady. Well, I don't want to say not being able to, it's just Brady kind of left. We talked about that in our previous video. I always get sidetracked when it comes to the Pats, so I apologize for that. But the biggest losses for the Patriots was not Tom Brady, as I said before. The biggest losses was their defense, and it was their defense that held them up this season to be, an elite team. The loss of Jamie Collins, the loss of Kyle Van Noy, the loss of German Harmon, those are all deeply going to affect the Patriots this season, unless they have players who they get lucky with when they in the NFL draft. But we're definitely going to – everybody's kind of in on the edge of their seats, Pats fans are at least, to see what happens, especially on the offensive side of the ball with possibly Jarrett Stidham, who right now is looking like our starting quarterback. So it's just kind of a wait-and-see thing for the Patriots.
Can't agree more. Number 12, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They kept Shaq Barrett, and Dominican Sue, and Jason Pierre-Paul. They added Tom Brady, and they lost receiver Brashad Perriman, which basically they don't really need because they have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. You can say what you want about Tom Brady. He's not as good as he used to be, but he's an improvement over Jameis Winston. He will not turn the ball over as much as Jameis Winston. He might not throw as many touchdowns as Jameis Winston did last year, but they'll be in more games. And they were 7-9 with Jameis Winston throwing 30 interceptions. So I have to say they're going to be better than 7-9. So that's why I have them at number 12.
So number 12, I have the Minnesota Vikings. I was a big proponent, a big supporter of the Minnesota Vikings this past season. But losing Stephon Diggs was definitely rough for the Vikings, being their star quarterback. I'm a big fan of Kirk Cousins. I do have trust in him that, he can carry the team this year along with the rest of that offense. And then, but this year, where they really have to capitalize is in the draft. They have, I believe it is 12 draft picks, and they have 2 first-rounders. So it is looking pretty good for the Vikings going into the NFL draft. Regardless of free agency, they had the loss of Diggs, but it wasn't a complete loss for the Vikings, as they do have, a pot of gold to look forward to say the least.
Number 11, I have the Dallas Cowboys. They lost Byron Jones, Randall Cobb, Robert Quinn, Travis Frederick. Their center retired, but they kept Amari Cooper. They kept Dak Prescott under the franchise tag, added Clinton Dix, Don Terry Poe, and Jalen McCoy. I don't want to talk along with the Cowboys, but I just feel like they're still a really talented team, keeping Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, and Ezekiel Elliott, and getting Mike McCarthy, who was an improvement over Jason Garrett, because Jason Garrett was not a good NFL coach. So that's why I have him at number 11 on my NFL Power Rankings list.
So number 11, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, Phillip Rivers is looking like their quarterback for this year. Not a long-term option, but it's definitely a good option to put some order in on that team. Jacoby Brissett, was he a good quarterback? Yeah, but he was not a leader. I was rooting for him. I did think that he had what it takes to be the starter of this team, but clearly that's not what the Colts think. So honestly, I think that this year with Phillip Rivers, it is a promising year for the Colts, and especially given the rest of the division with the Titans sticking with Ryan Tannehill, which I disagree with. We'll get into that when we get to the Titans. And then, of course, you look at the Texans who are in complete disarray, and the Jaguars who are in rebuilding. I think it is definitely a promising year for the Indianapolis Colts, Peter.
Number 10, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Didn't really do much on the offense side of the ball. They're still lacking a true number one receiver, and I expect them to hit that in the first round of the draft. But they did add star cornerback Darius Slay, defensive tackle Javon Hargrave. Keep this nice, short, and quick. If Carson Wentz stays healthy, this team's going to win 11, 12 games. If he doesn't, they won't. But adding Darius Slay gives their defense an improvement, which their secondary was not good last year. But they need to add another receiver in the draft, or the first or second, or maybe two, to help Carson Wentz. But health is the biggest thing here with the Philadelphia Eagles.
So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, an all-around great free agency for them. At the quarterback position, with the addition of Tom Brady, that's going to look good for him this year. I have trust in Brady, and I think that he has what it takes to lead this offense this season for the Bucs. Not a good long-term option at the quarterback position, but definitely is a positive outlook for this year for the Bucs. Of course, other than that, they're able to keep a lot of their key players, including Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh. So it's definitely looking good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. And of course, they have that receiving squad with Mike Evans, and they got the perfect set, Peter. That's all I have to say. They got the perfect roster to have a good season. Let's see what happens.
Perfect. Number 9, I have the Tennessee Titans. They kept Ryan Tannehill. We can debate on that, how big of a contract is, but and they also kept Derrick Henry, who led them to the playoffs. Added defense end Vic Beasley Jr., lost Jack Conklin and Jarrell Casey via trade. This team is still talented, good coaching staff. Ryan Tannehill plays like he did last year. This team's a playoff team. That's the biggest if. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs in this league. I like this defense, so that's why the Titans at number 9. Still a really talented and good team.
So at number 9, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't say too much about that. It's a really struggling division right now. Didn't make any huge moves in the draft. Of course, you have in NFL free agency, of course, you have Darius Slay, the cornerback. But we're just got to wait and see what happens in that division this year. They got the Eagles, the Giants, and, of course, the struggling Redskins, and then the Cowboys. So it's really going to be a toss-up between Eagles and the Cowboys, and we'll see if the Giants can get back into it. But not too much to say about the Eagles in free agency.
Number 8, I have my favorite team, the Buffalo Bills. They traded for star receiver Stephon Diggs, added defensive end Mario Addison, and corner Josh Norman. Did lose Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips. This team is really talented, probably the best defensive team in football. This is not me being biased, but I think they are the best defensive team in football. Josh Allen is improving each year. Adding a legit number 1 receiver can only help him, can't hurt him. A full year of Devin Singletary. They don't have a first round pick, but they still have second, third, fourth. They still have a lot. You still can capitalize in the draft. You always need a first round pick. This coaching staff is great. This team is on the trend, especially Patriots. A little bit of a question mark for the first time in a long time. Dolphins and Jets still not there yet. So I have the Buffalo Bills at the number 8 team in my NFL power rankings, and I'm excited to say that.
Awesome. Okay. So at number 8, I am going with the Tennessee Titans. So there are a lot of questions. Of course, this year they did well in the postseason after they squeaked into the playoffs. There are a lot of questions as to whether this is a sign that the Titans have built up their team and they're going to be a good team, or whether this is just kind of like a freaky happening, to say the least. Kind of if you look at the Seattle Seahawks back in, I think it was 2010, when they went 7-9, made the playoffs, and everything didn't really go too well from there until they went with Russell Wilson. But Ryan Tannehill, in my opinion, is a mediocre quarterback. They're sticking with him. Do I think that that's going to be a good option for them this year? I don't know. This is really where Ryan Tannehill has to prove himself as an NFL quarterback, because the clock is kind of ticking. He didn't really do too well for the Dolphins. So if he can, pick up his career with the Titans, good for him. But not too many people have optimism with that. So we'll see what happens. In that, but of course you got Derrick Henry, their star running back. That's probably what everybody's looking forward to, is seeing how he plays out for the offense on the Titans this year. So for the Titans, I don't know, just kind of another wait and see game. See if they can live up to be the team that they were last season.
7, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Kept safety Anthony Harris, added Michael Pierce, Tajay Sharp, lost Stephon Diggs, Winville Joseph, Trey Waynes, and Everson Griffin. Keep this nice and short. The loss of Stephon Diggs will hurt. That's why I have him second in division behind the Green Bay Packers. This team is still a playoff team. Good coaching staff, good quarterback. Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, still a good defense. So just keep it nice, quick, and short. Minnesota Vikings had an eventful free agency. See what they do in the draft. They do have 2 first-round picks, like you said, but they're still going to be a good team. That's why I have a number 7.
Okay, so number 7, Peter, I actually have the Buffalo Bills. So I ranked them higher than you did. You should be happy because this probably won't happen again. Fingers crossed. So anyway, but yeah, the Buffalo Bills, it's definitely looking good for them. Of course, Stephon Diggs is going to be a huge, huge asset for their offense, especially with a young quarterback like Josh Allen, as I said in our last video. And I am a big Josh Allen fan. I think he has what it takes to be a long-term good quarterback for this team. The biggest proponent for the Buffalo Bills, of course, is their stellar defense. They didn't really lose. They didn't lose anybody. They didn't trade anybody. So they pretty much have, the same defense as they did last year. If you would agree with me, Peter. So it's looking good for them this year. We're gonna have to see how they fare against the Patriots. Of course, that's what I'm worried about as a Pats fan, first and foremost. So we're gonna have to wait and see there. Yep.
Number 6, I got the Green Bay Packers, added Devin Funchess, Christian Kirksey, lost Jimmy Graham, Blake Martinez, and Brian Bolonga. Have a new head coach, not a new head coach, second-year head coach, still have Aaron Rodgers, still a really good NFL quarterback. Team's going to be talented. They're going to win the division. I have them at number 6.
Okay, so number 6, I have the Packers as well for the same reasons you said. Devin Funchess could be a big asset for Aaron Rodgers. The only thing they have to worry about is Hopkins and going to the Cardinals in their division. So number 5, Peter?
Seattle Seahawks added Philip Dorsett, Greg Olsen, and Quentin Dunbar. Small adds, but Russell Wilson might be my pick for MVP this year. I think he deserves an MVP. He's a really good NFL, probably one of the best NFL quarterbacks in the league. So he'll keep him in every game. Good defense. Pete Carroll is still tremendous NFL head coach. So I have him at number 5.
So I have the Seahawks at number 5 as well. Of course, some of those minor additions can do nothing but help them, but not too many major changes, and we're going to see the same Seahawks this season as we saw last season.
Number 4, I have your favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens. Kept Matthew Judon and Jimmy Smith, added Calais Campbell, and lost Hayden Hurst, who was their backup tight end. Quickly, Calais Campbell is a really good defensive player still. Is going to really help with that defense, which is already a really good defense. All around, really talented team, so that's why I have him at number 4.
Now, to avoid me getting sidetracked, as you guys know, as many of you have known if you've listened to our radio show previously, I'm not a big fan of the Baltimore Ravens. I've gone on a couple rants here and there as to why their team, the hype is about to crash. Mm-hmm. But so we'll do that in a later video so we can have it out there on YouTube. Yeah. But for now, I'm going to say what Peter said. Okay, that's what I agree with for the Ravens. I do have them at number 4. Peter?
Number 3, New Orleans Saints added safety Malcolm Jenkins, receiver Emmanuel Sanders. Team, they still can't get over the hump in the playoffs, but they're still a really talented team with Sean Payne and Drew Brees. Added another receiver with Michael Thomas. So I have this Saints winning the division again and being a Super Bowl contender again.
So number 3, actually, I have the 49ers, the previous Super Bowl contenders. They were a good team. Not too many capitalizations in capitalizations in free agency. Of course, I think they're just going to be the same. I don't want to say they're going to be the same team this year, but we're going to see if they can get over the hump. See if Jimmy Garoppolo can be, a dedicated leader to that team.
Perfect. San Francisco 49ers, I have them at number 2. Kept Eric Armstead and Jimmy Ward, lost receiver Emmanuel Sanders, and defensive tackle DeForest Buckner. Good trade for them getting another first-round pick. So now they have 2 first-round picks. They need to add another receiver with one of those 2 picks to help Jimmy G. I agree with you. Jimmy G, we'll see what he does in his actually second full year starting as an NFL quarterback. Still a really talented team.
Okay, so at number 2, I have the New Orleans Saints. Just for time's sake, same things what Peter said. I was happy, that they're staying with Drew Brees. They're restructuring Michael Thomas's contract. They have what it takes to be a Super Bowl contending team, but for some reason, they just can't do it in the playoffs. Yeah. Is it going to change this year for Saints fans? Hopefully, but I'm seeing the same type of team that we've seen for the past couple of years.
Number 1, me and Ed had the same. Number 1, you can't, unless they lost Patrick Mahomes, which they did not. I didn't recall seeing that. But the defending Super Bowl champs, they kept defensive tackle Chris Jones, Damian Williams. They do lose Kenneth Fuller. They'll be fine. This team's a really talented team. They're probably the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. I think we both can agree on that. We'll wait and see what happens this season, but Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, might be the MVP next year. Super Bowl MVP, already won MVP. So me and Ed both have the team. Both have Kansas City Chiefs at our number one team on our list.
I agree with Peter, just everything that he said. Of course, we have to wait and see what Patrick Mahomes can do coming off a Super Bowl victory. But, definitely looking promising this year for the Chiefs. Shouldn't be too different from last year. So, anyway, we want to thank you guys for sticking with us. Sorry, this is kind of a longer video, but this is one of the things that we're really passionate about and really wanted to get out there is our NFL Power Rankings. We'll be doing this several times throughout the season. This is a crucial part of analyzing teams in the NFL. So we really want to thank you guys. Of course, we got that big interview coming up, so please tune in for that. That's going to be one of our biggest shows that we've had in this YouTube history and, of course, in our radio show as well. So really want to thank you guys. And this has been the Talking Sports Podcast with Peter DiBiasi and Eddie Amadeo, and we are signing out. Thank you.